This is the Louie T Network.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Lockdown Coverage, week number 6 in the National Football League. Los Angeles Rams at the Jacksonville Jaguars. This game kind of went the way that I expected it to go. I just didn't expect 2 touchdowns on special teams for the Rams and 2 touchdowns in the game in the first 25 seconds. I didn't expect that. But I kind of got the outcome that I was expecting. This Jacksonville Jaguars team has been inconsistently consistent, and they've been consistent at one thing: winning one week, losing the next. And so if that trend continues, then they were due for a loss in week 6. They're due for a win in week 7. So I just continued to go with the trend that they have set for this season. And the Rams have shown me that they're good enough to go win on the road. They've done it already this season. They're not afraid to go into somebody's house and steal one. And so I knew they had no problems going into Jacksonville whatsoever and going and finding a way to win. And I had no doubts that they would be able to get it done. The real test for them now, in the division, okay? They haven't won a game in the division against the bigger teams, haven't played but one, that being Seattle. They beat San Francisco, but who doesn't beat San Francisco? They're 0-6 right now. The question is, can they beat Arizona in London? That's going to be a big game. But in looking at this game that just passed versus Jacksonville, outside of the big run given up to Leonard Fournette, they did a really good job against the run for the most part throughout the course of this game. They got after Blake Bortles. They sacked him. They got him. They pressured him, forced him into a turnover. They stripped him a couple of times. They weren't able to come up with the football. But in any event, this was a game in which the Rams pretty much dominated on the defensive and special teams side of things. Now, offensively, that's a good Jacksonville Jaguars defense, and they struggled versus that Jaguars defense. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into the breakdown for the Jaguars. It's pretty disappointing that they can't put together 2 straight weeks of consistent football. The offense was the problem this week. The defense, they did more than their fair share in this game. And the special teams was a nightmare. And we'll talk about that in this breakdown as to why the Jags weren't able to get it done at home and lose this game 27-17 and are now 3-3 and tied for the lead in the AFC South division with the Houston Texans. Titans have a chance tonight on Monday night to get a piece of first place. So do the Indianapolis Colts. So the winner of the game tonight will also join the Texans and this Jaguars team at 3-3, and we'll see how that goes. The Jags have a huge one on the road against Indianapolis next week. So we'll see how everything sorts itself out. But we'll break this game down here in a second. But first, if you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting the subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie T Network. There are a number of different ways you can follow this channel via social media on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. All of those links that will keep you in tune to what's going on here on the Louie T Network down in the description below, so check that out. Also, down in that description box is a way for you to donate to this channel. Those are the 2 ways that you see in front of you. Those are the links, one to Patreon, the other to PayPal. Those links are also in the description below, so check those out. Patreon is pretty cool. A number of different ways that you can get exclusive content from this channel via Patreon if you are able to donate. So check that out, give it a browse and see if it's something that interests you. If you can't donate, as I've said numerous times, just continue to support the channel the way that you have previously, which is just continue to watch, continue to like the videos, share the videos, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Louie T Network. With that being said, let's talk about this game and how the Rams were able to be victorious 27-17 on the road to run their record to 4-2 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. They came out guns a-blazing, opening kickoff. Farrell Cooper with a gorgeous kickoff return. Looked like it was going to amount to little to next to nothing. Then he does a little spin pirouette and gets down the sideline. And then the blocking on that play was magnificent. The punter was blocked and sealed inside, and he was able to tightrope down the sideline. And then he had just enough speed to outrun that last defender, or the last two, to get into the end zone for that touchdown. And that set the tone for the game. And then it's crazy because literally 10 seconds later, Leonard Fournette, on the first carry of the game for the Jaguars, 75 yards off to the races for a touchdown. And that's another big run in the last 2 weeks. Remember, he had the 90-yard run versus Pittsburgh to seal that one up 2 weeks ago. This week, he has the 75-yarder to start the game off. And the crowd was sitting on their hands after the disappointing start. And just like that, they were out of their seats. And it was amazing. It was 14:35 left on the game clock, and there was already 14 points on the scoreboard, 7 for each team. I mean, I was amazed. I remember watching the 4 o'clock game that I get here locally, which was Pittsburgh and Kansas City, and I saw that L.A. had scored immediately, and I'm like, okay. I jumped on them early, and then literally I took a look up, and I looked back down, and it was 7-7. I'm like, what the hell just happened? It was just 7-0. So it was funny to actually see what occurred in the game and what took place for that score to be what it was. But looking at the Rams, let's start with their offense, because normally that's the part of the team that you can count on week in and week out, is this offense to show up. Well, they were stifled, and that's a good Jacksonville Jaguars defense that they played against in this game. Might have been the best defense they've seen all season long. Jacksonville has been shutting down just about everybody they've played against, and they did it in this game. The only thing that the Jags could not stop, and that was their saving grace in this game for the Rams, was the run game and Todd Gurley. Early on, Todd Gurley was bottled up a little bit, but I thought it was just from a lack of touches. He didn't get enough carries early on in the ball game. I felt like the Rams were trying to establish more of a passing game early, but once they got down to it late in the game, and really in the middle portion of the game, they realized we need to establish a run, and they kind of stuck with it. Gurley was the one churning out the yards, moving the sticks, and giving them an opportunity to put points on the scoreboard in this football game. And if nothing else, helping them flip field position, because this was a punt fest by both teams. Neither offense really had a good grasp of what the other team was doing to them defensively to take advantage and move the football successfully. A lot of punts in this game on both sides. And so even if you weren't going to get points out of a possession, flipping the field position was key in this game. And Todd Gurley's ground game and the rushing attack of the Rams was huge in, at least, if nothing else, flipping the field position and getting the Jaguars to be pinned deep inside their own territory. Jared Goff was not as sharpest in this game, but again, he didn't make the crucial, critical mistake that plagues teams when they have young quarterbacks. You normally try to take the football out of a young quarterback's hand because you expect them to make mistakes. That was not the case in this particular game with Jared Goff, and that hasn't really been the case for him this season, which is one of the reasons why they've been so successful, is that he isn't turning the football over. And he was able to be a caretaker in this game. They ran the football with Gurley, and they had success, and they were able to come away with the victory defensively with this Rams team in this game. I felt like the Rams did some good things defensively. They got after Blake Bortles. They did create a turnover. You look at the way this team is set up, and I'm anxious to see how this team continues to adapt to this 3-4 defense, with Quinn standing up on the outside. And normally you're in your base defense about 35 to 40% of the game, maybe even 30% depending on who you're playing against. This Rams defense seems to be in their base quite a bit. And so I want to see how they continue to evolve in this 3-4 defense headed by Wade Phillips. I feel like they're starting to get a handle on this defense. They're starting to get pressure on the quarterback. Connor Barwin got to the quarterback. Fox was able to get to the quarterback in this game. Aaron Donald was able to get to the quarterback. So they were able to get to Blake Bortles, force him into some mistakes. They had a football, carom off of a receiver, Mercedes Lewis. That was an errant pass by Blake Bortles off the fingertips of Lewis into the hands of Roby Coleman, who was able to return that and give the Rams some great field position that they weren't able to take advantage of. But nonetheless, they were able to flip the field position because the Jags were in scoring range and were at least going to come away with a field goal attempt, which would not have been a guarantee because their kicker right now is struggling in Jacksonville. We'll talk about that when we get to the Jaguars. But nonetheless, I thought the defense, along with special teams, was the reason that the Rams won this football game. The offense, look, not going to have your fastball. I say this all the time with the better offenses and the defenses that accompany those teams with good offenses. You're not going to have your fastball on offense every week. And when you play good defenses, generally, when it's a good offense versus a good defense, the good defense usually wins out. So you're going to need your defense to step up and special teams in certain instances to step up and make plays, and that's what happened in this game for the Rams. The defense stepped up to the forefront because the offense didn't have it, and the special teams was what the difference was in this game. They were the true difference makers with this Rams football team. The Pharaoh Cooper 104-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. You also get a block punt, and that one goes to the crib as well. A beautiful play there by the Rams, and Brown was able to scoop it up and literally had a convoy of about 5 other Rams carry him into the end zone for a touchdown. And then young Jeezy banging it home from about 56 yards. That's a luxury to have when you say, look, all we got to do is get to about the 40-yard line and we're in field goal range. Not many teams have that luxury. The Rams are one of the few, and he was able to bang home a 56-yarder. So those points scored by the special teams, literally those 17 points, you get one score by the offense, and it was enough to get it done in this game. Rams doing what they have to win, and that's what the good teams find a way to win in this league on the road. Special teams defense stepped up, got them a win here on the road. Big win by the Rams. The Jacksonville Jaguars came into this game with the utmost confidence after they utterly destroyed the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road. They came into this game thinking they were going to do the same thing to the Rams. Defensively, the Rams stepped up. Special teams-wise, the Rams stepped up, and they got it done in this game, 27-17. Todd Gurley in the run game also stepped up for this Rams team. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that as well. You go to the Jag side of things, and let's start with this Jaguars defense because this is what's going to carry this team week in and week out. The defense was phenomenal in this game. They created a turnover on a fumble. I did not like the fact that the officials blew the whistle on that. The NFL has been doing a better job this year of allowing plays just like that one where Telvin Smith comes in, hammers the football loose from Robert Woods. Ball comes free. It's scooped up by the Jags, and they've got a chance to run it down the sidelines. Probably wouldn't have scored a touchdown, but it would have been deep in Rams territory. Instead, they blow the play dead, said it was down, go back to the review booth, and later determine that it was, in fact, a fumble, was scooped up by the Jaguars, but now the ball can't be advanced. I thought they took a scoring opportunity away from the Jaguars in that moment, and if I'm not mistaken, they did not capitalize on that fumble. So I did not like the fact that they blew that play dead and awarded the ball back to the Rams, and then later on had to go back and overturn that. Let that play out. Allow that to be a fumble on the field, and if you need to go back and overturn it, you can, and the ball will be back at that spot. I thought they missed an opportunity to allow the Jaguars to advance the football there, but this defense was outstanding. Calais Campbell with another 2 sacks in this game. They got after Jared Goff. They made him uncomfortable. He had just a shade over 50% completion percentage in this game, which he has been lighting it up this season. He was not himself. This offense was not as fluid as it's been this season, and that's all due to this Jaguars defense. I thought they were really good up front. They got after Jared Goff. The only issue in this game from this Jags defense was the inability to stop Todd Gurley consistently on the ground. There weren't any huge runs, no 50 or 60-yard runs like Fournette got, but it was a steady diet of 5, 6, 7s, and 8s in this game, which allowed Gurley to eclipse 100 yards rushing. And like I said, even if it didn't yield points, and it did yield points on that final drive that gave the Rams that 10-point cushion on that field goal drive late in the ball game, that was all Todd Gurley putting this team or that Rams team on his back rushing the football, and the Jags simply, I think, ran out of gas at that point. But other than the run game being a little bit of a nuisance, this Jags defense was outstanding once again and played well enough for this Jacksonville Jaguars team to win. You look at special teams, it was a nightmare in this game before we get to the offense and their lack of production in this game. Special teams is what really cost you this ball game when you get down to the nitty-gritty of things. You give up 2 scores on special teams, and your field goal kicker missed 2 kicks. If we want to be technical, he got a mulligan on a legal formation penalty by the Rams, which was probably their only mistake on special teams the entire day. Other than that, he would have missed that field goal from 41 yards. Then you have a false start penalty after they gave you the free 5 yards to kick the kick closer at 36 yards, which he did make. You move it back to the 41 yards on the field goal, and he bangs it home. So he would have missed another one. And then late in the game, you drove it down the field, and you needed 2 scores. So you tried to attempt the field goal first to get that score out of the way, attempt the onside kick to see if you could get that and get back into this game with a touchdown. He missed that field goal as well. So right now, Jason Myers struggling as a field goal kicker. That may be something that you may need to address in the near future. You got to keep giving this guy an opportunity because, like I said, there's not a lot of kickers out on the free agent market to go and grab and have success with at this point of the season. So you want to give as many opportunities to Jason Myers as you can to see if he can't get out of this funk that he's in, because we've known him to be a really solid kicker for you, but if he can't shake whatever's going on, then you're going to have to move on from him because he's costing you points. And with the way that this Jacksonville Jaguars team is set up, you're not going to score a ton of points. This is a defensive football team that's going to create opportunities for the offense. The offense isn't going to score a ton of points. So when they do finally drive the football down the field, whether it's 7 and an extra point that needs to be tacked on, or they barely get in the field goal range, they need those points. He's got to be able to deliver. He didn't in this game, and he hasn't for the most part this season, or at least of late. That's a problem that's going to have to be addressed if he can't get his act together here in the near future. But offensively, Fournette is this team's offense. And Marquise Lee tried to do his best to participate in this game and give you a little something at the receiver position. But frankly, when Fournette is going, this team has an opportunity offensively. When he's not, and he got hurt late in this game, and it looked bad. He took his helmet off, and his mouthpiece fell out of his mouth, and he was rolling around, writhing in pain. It looked bad, but they say that he'll be able to go next week against Indy on the road. So that's a good sign that it's not as severe as once thought, or at least initially looking at the way he reacted to the injury. But nonetheless, you take him out of this offense, and I thought the screen game was nice. Ivory scoring on the touchdown on one of the screens, that was outstanding. But for the most part, this team struggles. They don't have any vertical threats. Not a single one. I don't see one guy on this team right now. And I thought maybe Kalen Cole would be that guy that could stretch the field vertically. This team doesn't scare anyone vertically. I don't know if they've hit a vertical shot all season long. Everything seems to be short to intermediate with Blake Bortles. They're doing a really good job of getting him out of the pocket in the bootleg game and allowing him to use his legs when nothing is there. I love the fact that they're implementing the screen game more so than they have in the past. But that being said, you still got to be able to drop back and beat teams in the pocket, and this Jacksonville Jaguars offense is inconsistent in doing so, and this was one of the games where they struggled to do that. And they had no offensive rhythm, no flow, other than the Fournette 75-yard touchdown on the very first play of the game from scrimmage for this Jaguars team. They really had not much going on offense, and so you had some things going early in the first quarter, and like I said, the drive that resulted in the touchdown to Chris Ivory, that was a nice little drive. But after that, the Rams shut the faucet off, and you weren't able to sustain offense for the vast majority of the day. So that's the biggest issue in Jacksonville, is when the run game isn't dominating, when the defense isn't creating a multitude of turnovers and giving you short fields to work with. This team has to drive the football 80, 75, 70 yards for a touchdown. Are they capable of doing that? Right now, the answer is no, consistently, and that's what's going to hold this team back unless something is to change. And right now, I just don't see that being the case. Rams get it done 27-17 over the Jags in this football game. 4-2 record now is what the Rams are sporting atop the NFC West division. Big game over in London against the Arizona Cardinals, who are in second place at 3-3 in this division. So that's a big one on Sunday in London. Can't wait to watch that game. That's going to be a fascinating watch. Jags, however, on the road in the division. So both of these teams will be having family business matchups. The Jags on the road at Indy next week to see if they can't stay atop this division in the AFC South. Let's get to some of your comments, if there are any out there. See what we got. Said Buffalo pregame. What up, fellas? Buffalo pregame says, do you think Sammy Watkins signs with the Rams after the season? If not, where do you think he goes? Hard to say right now. He's still kind of acclimating himself to the offense. They're trying to get him involved. Some games it works like it did against San Francisco. Other games, not so much. So we'll see what happens with Samuel Watkins moving forward. But I think if the season continues to progress and he becomes a bigger part of the offense and they feel like he's the number one threat out there, they may re-sign him. We'll see what happens. Cloud says, your boy's trying out Nolan Carroll. Look, when you're hurting at the cornerback position, we got a lot of injuries. Bashad Breeland down. You got to do something. You got to have a veteran out there. We got a lot of young boys. You got to do something. He may be the best of what's left out there on the streets right now. So we'll see what happens. He's not a long-term solution by any stretch of the imagination, but got injuries, going to have guys out for a while. You need a Band-Aid. He might be the answer. Buffalo pregame says, I think Marrone will always be a 500 coach. He doesn't suck, but he won't take them to the promised land. I mean, look, just getting this team to 500 would be a win in itself. I mean, just look at what this Jaguars organization has been over the last decade. I mean, they haven't won since Coughlin was there and Del Rio was there. So, I mean, when did Del Rio get ousted? Like 2000 and maybe 8 or so, 9, 10 at the latest. The fact that they haven't won in over, probably 7 to 10 years, they're dying for a 500. They'll take 8-8. And if that's the case, you build upon that. But they need someone to get them over the 5-11, 6-10, 4-12 hump. And Doug Marrone may be the guy to get that job done. Snake Jr. said, I had your Redskins killing the Niners. What happened? Niners a good team that just can't win, or they don't know how to close out games. I won't say that they're a good team yet. I'll tell you this much. They're not bad, and I've been trying to tell everybody that they're not a bad football team. You don't lose in this league by 3 points, 2 points for the last 5 weeks unless you're a competitive football team. That's what I'll call them. They're a very competitive football team. They're missing the quarterback. That's the missing ingredient right now. They get that, and they're a different football team. BK Soldier 2010 says, what do you think of the thought of Eli Manning coming to the Jags? I don't like it. But it's all hearsay. That's not going to happen. Eli Manning isn't finishing his career in Jacksonville. It's just not going to happen. Falcons Fury says, man, I thought the Jags season was done when I saw Fournette go down. Glad he's okay. Rookie of the year to me. Right now, that's exactly what he would be if the season ended today. It was a nice, tight race between he and Dalvin Cook. Cook goes down with the injury, and I think it's all Fournette's to lose now. If he can stay healthy, he's going to be the offensive rookie of the year for sure. Snake Jr. says, I still think it was a great game that two teams sucked last year and now actually doing well. I'm a hardcore Rams fan. Props to the Jags. This is what happens when you draft well. The Jags have drafted well for the last 3 years. The problem is they still don't have the quarterback. And even though they've got a ton of talent, to me, I look at this team like the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks drafted well for years, but they didn't have the quarterback. They were meddling around with Tavares Jackson for years. Then they thought Flynn was the answer. And then they lucked up and drafted Russell Wilson, figured out early on in his rookie season in the preseason that he was the guy, benched Matt Flynn in favor of Russell Wilson. He started the season. The rest is history. The Jags need a quarterback similar to the Seattle Seahawks. They get that. You can see that they got their beast mode in Leonard Fournette. They've got a ton of receivers similar to the Seahawks. None of them stand out, but they're all quality receivers. You look at the defense, it's legit as it gets in this league right now. They've got the Seattle Seahawks mold down to a science. They just need the quarterback. You look at the Rams, and this is a team that just needed the right guy in control. They've got that man now in ex-Redskins offensive coordinator, Sean McVay, and he's going to take this team to the next level. It may take some time. It may not be this year, but it's coming. And you can see the improvement that this team has made already in such a short period of time under McVay. BK Soldier 2010 says, even with Andrew Luck next week for the Colts, you think the Jags can beat the Colts? If I'm going off of the precedents set by the Jags in this season, yes. They go to the Indianapolis, and not only do they go to Indy and win, they destroy Indy next week if we continue on with the trend that they've set for this season. Cloud says, I feel for you, but Nolan Carroll is terrible, man. I would just let the young guys play. Even if we sign him, there's no guarantee he's going to hit the field. What you have to understand is you got to have enough bodies. We've been dropping like flies every week. So we may have Nolan Carroll. He may only play special teams for us. He may do nothing else but stand on the sideline in case of an emergency. That's it. But bottom line is you need bodies. And he may not even be signed. But if he does get signed, I could care less, to be honest with you, because you just got to have enough guys to field a team. Cloud says, Gurley is having a great bounce-back season. Wish we had him, LOL. That's what happens when you get a better O-line, which the Rams did upgrade their O-line in the offseason, and you got a competent quarterback that can actually run the offense that teams have to be wary of. It opens things up for you. Brandon Williams says, do you think that the Los Angeles Rams can win their division and make the playoffs this year? I still think this is the Seattle Seahawks division to lose. They went into L.A. and won the game. It wasn't pretty, and the Rams should have won that game, but they didn't, which shows me that they still have some growth left and that they need to figure out a way to beat the teams in the division that are looked upon as the better teams. Here's another example of that. The Arizona Cardinals in London next week. Got to find a way to beat the Arizona Cardinals. They got Adrian Peterson now. They feel like they figured out a formula to help them win offensively. You got to go and quiet that storm now that's brewing in Arizona. So can you do that? You couldn't do it the first time against Seattle a couple of weeks ago. Here's another example of a team that's been better than you in this division for years. You need to slay the dragon. Here's an opportunity to do that. You want to win this division? Here's a golden opportunity to put some separation between you and Arizona and make it a two-team race between Los Angeles Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. Don't allow a third participant to get into this race in the Arizona Cardinals. Put them out of their misery. Take them out in this game. And this is a home game for you. So you have to go to Arizona later on in the season. You need to win this game. And we'll see if you're able to do that or not. That will go a long way in determining if this team is serious about making a bid for this division or not. In any event, that's going to do it for this breakdown. Jags weren't able to get it done. They continue on their trend of win one, lose one, win one, lose one, win one, lose one. They lose 27-17 at home. Rams get the win. Again, special teams and defense stepped up to the forefront as the offense was slowed by that outstanding Jacksonville Jaguars defense. But 14 points by the special teams, 2 touchdowns accounted for this Rams victory over the Jags on the road, 27-17. Rams move to 4-2 and remain atop the NFC West division. Meanwhile, the Jacksonville Jaguars are now tied for the lead in the AFC South at 3-3 with the Houston Texans, and will be tied with another participant in this division after Monday Night Football. The winner of Texans Colts will also join the Titans Colts will join the Texans and Jags at 3-3. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie T Network. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League. I'll break down Raiders and Chargers at halftime of the Monday night game. Enjoy the festivities. I'll see you at halftime with the breakdown of Chargers and Raiders. I'll see you then. Enjoy Monday Night Football. I'll see you at halftime. Have a good one.